Alright, so I played a game recently called Rosewater. I've been debating whenever I've enjoyed this or just want to be nice because it's from a dev I've enjoyed immensely in the past. And I've come to a conclusion that while it's far from being my favorite, I've still enjoyed Rosewater quite a bit. I'd recommend this point and click. What is it about? Hayley Leger has led an eventful life, with a spotty past, a calm present, and a very uncertain future. However, her misadventures led toward a pivot to a writing career. And it just so happens that she gets invited to a small town in the eastern Vespuccia, Rosewater. But it doesn't take long for her to figure out that it's a dead end nowhere, robbed straight off a train, people thrown out of windows, and barely anyone around. This town has seen better days, yet it is hiding a rather fascinating secret. What did I enjoy? Well, the more I think about it, the more I realize that I'm not exactly a world traveler, yet some part of me longs for it. Only it manifests through strange ways. It's not like I want to go out and just travel all over the place. Instead, I like to watch road trip stories. I enjoy movies like that. Outward comes to mind, for example, but there were definitely others. And as it turns out, games too. Seeing others just go somewhere, maybe without a clear destination or any kind of plan. Just moving from place to place, not knowing what's going to come at any moment. All the while they come closer to the people who share this trip with them. It's almost like I live vicariously through them. Anyway, the gist is that the vast majority of this game is exactly that, a road trip story, and in fact Rosewater is actually a very minor part of it. The city, that is. No spoilers. Which, well, it's actually a good thing. The city is tiny and there's nothing interesting in the city proper, so, you know. Another thing that comes to mind is the moon logic, meaning I've played quite a few point and clicks which drove me to walkthroughs fairly quickly. At which point I stop using my head entirely and forget what I'm even looking at, just drifting along toward the next step. Here I've encountered some roadblocks, but the point is that everything flowed fairly simply and logically, and it's actually a major problem with the genre that I have. Far too often do puzzles turn insane, which is a major turn-off and makes it difficult to actually get absorbed into the story. All this elaborate whining to say that I'm again reminded of a murder on Space Station 52. Oof. And I have to point out the fox and the turtle story. That's childish, sure, but cute. The art is nice, the story feels like a genuine children's fairy tale, and it's just nice. I've enjoyed that story quite a bit. Every companion had a little detour of their own, but this was my clear favorite. Although I don't think I've disliked any other. So, what did I dislike? The art. This is something consistent with Grundislav. I feel like it's down to the budget, so he's trying to do it all himself, or at least as much as he possibly can. But the art just is not pleasant to look at. I think he can do backgrounds well, and maybe some minor details like the clothes. The movement is not my cup of tea, but I think he does that alright as well. Rotoscoping is fine, generally. But the highly detailed objects or faces, those just don't look good. I want to be nice, especially since I've tried animating myself lately, and boy, it's not easy. But I'd be lying if I said the art is good here. It's simply something that needs either something of a placeholder art, with close-ups done separately, like Shardlight was, or simplified altogether, like something from Script Welder. His games look downright hideous, but because the style is so consistent, it all gels together well. Grundislav seems to veer between the pixelated art style and the semi-realistic art, which doesn't really fit together that well. Aside from this, I'd say that the actual story here is not as good as the other games from this dev. I think my favorite is Lamplight City, and that game is what drove me to give point and clicks another shot. Because the last time I played them was when I was, 7? Boy, that was a while ago. So I just ignored the genre entirely. This is the man who made me try them again because it was just so bloody good. And I loved Shardlight as well, and Golden Wake, especially with a commentary, getting some history tidbits here and there. That was pretty nice. But I believe Rosewater might be the weakest of these. In the end, I see the whole picture and it seems to come together well enough, but before that, it's down to the fact that it starts without a clear direction, no real promise of anything interesting, and it seems to go into a fairly confusing story only to hit the last act and become a fairly typical point and click with huge stakes coming out of seemingly nowhere. I didn't hate it, but I never knew exactly what I wanted from it. Also, the companion system was a bit unwieldy, as I didn't exactly know what was possible and what wasn't. It seems that the player can only get close to 1 or 2 companions, and I very much tried to be friendly with everybody. And it's not like it's explained what exactly is this for. I've assumed something akin to unavowed, meaning missions where I can only pick 2 people at a time, so I'd have puzzles which only work for those. However, instead the developer himself said that the companions choose you, and there aren't actually different missions to go on. The player gets slightly different story and a few different road trip stops. The last chapter also gets slightly different options to get into the club, but the results are essentially the same. None of this is satisfying, if I'm perfectly honest. I've wanted all the story bits, all the stops, and I didn't get an indication that it isn't actually possible. And I suppose I can also complain about the puzzles, a few of them. Name of L in the club was hard to figure out, and I didn't get how exactly. I used the walkthrough. The mountain village was annoying too. I didn't understand how is that whole area supposed to progress, so I had to simply keep repeating something, hoping for something to change, not a fun kind of puzzle. And the wizard one. What is my motivation? That dialogue was so annoying, but the worst part of it was what it didn't really make any sense to me. Why would he want it to be like the newspaper? What does the newspaper even have to do with him? Whatever. And lastly, I'll bitch about a fairly minor thing, which is probably some kind of weird fringe bug. Fire causes gigantic frame drops. Campfire scenes tanked. Hard. I'm not sure what is going on because I have a fairly beefy GPU right now. So that was weird. Anyway, that's Rosewater. I'd suggest playing Lamplight over this, but if you really want some point and clicks and you've already tried everything else what's available right now, then it's definitely not a bad one. Also, there were some familiar voices here. Took me a grand total of 5 seconds before I shouted, "Melody!" So that was fun. Amelia Tyler might be voicing an old lady here, but she still seems as sexy as ever.